Hello, it's Professor Marino again. What time is it? What time is it? It's Hamlet time. So let's begin by talking about Olivier's film from 1948, the only film of a Shakespeare play to actually ever win the Oscar for Best Picture. Now, to many people, the Olivier film will look very old-fashioned, and in certain ways you're right. It is black and white, which is not our normal move these days, Joss Whedon aside. It is traditional costuming, which means not what people actually wore in the Renaissance, but a 1948 conventional, traditional idea of what that was, dressed in the normal stage version of original costuming. And our actors are all classically trained in a way that emphasizes the beauty of the language. They really want the lines to sound good and to let you hear the poetry. They're more interested in making sure you hear the poetry than making sure you knew what God said, that the poetry is first. Now, in all those ways, Olivier is very traditional, and Olivier himself is a great stage actor, one of the greatest of all time, and certainly one of the leading geniuses of the classical British stage in the 20th century, paired only with Sir John Gielgud, who we'll see for a second and a half in the Branagh movie. All that said, Olivier is also an enormously sophisticated and even experimental film director. He is really thinking a lot about movies. He's been thinking a lot about Orson Welles, whose Chimes at Midnight is our last kind of bonus movie. He's been thinking about film noir a lot, and he's been thinking about how to tell this story with the camera. Olivier would never just stage a play. When we get to Henry V, remember I told you, Olivier would never just stage a play. He knows very, very well that film's a different medium and it works by different rules. And he has a bunch of specific challenges to meet filming Hamlet. In general, Hamlet is about, well, here are some simple things Hamlet is about. Don't talk to dead people. Don't kill your brother. If you love somebody, don't kill her father. More importantly, more artistically, it's about two big questions. It's about the question of doubt. This is a play that's very much designed so that we don't know a lot of what's going on. Our lead doesn't, we know certain very big things. We eventually know, because the king admits it, who killed Hamlet's father. We don't know who was in on it. We don't know a lot about that. There are a lot of things we don't see. Shakespeare is very carefully concealing certain facts for us, creating an air of mystery. Now, every filmmaker we see is going to have to make this decision what to do with all those things that Shakespeare deliberately kept off stage to make us wonder about them and to let Hamlet presumably wonder about them. And since we're talking about Hamlet, I want to point out we're all wearing black today. Everybody's wearing black today. Hamlet has also famously come to be read as a play about the mind itself, about what we call in the English department interiority, what's happening inside the character. And it's especially critics are obsessed with what's going on inside Hamlet's head. This is famous, but it's also tricky because Hamlet is a character on stage. It's drama. The thing about a play is you don't get inside anybody. They're there on stage. You're just looking at them from the outside. Film is also a medium very much about looking at people from the outside. But there's a deep commitment to getting inside Hamlet's head. Shakespeare has taught us that there's something going on in that guy, that there's that within which passeth show, as Hamlet says, that something's going on in this person's mind that he himself doesn't understand, and that we need to find out. The real focus is what's going on inside that guy's head, though we can only ever see outside. Now, Olivier is very committed to getting inside Hamlet's head. You will see visually how far we are going to get inside Hamlet's head. But Olivier needs, as a director, needs certain strategies to get at this interiority thing. Now, on the first hand, you'll see that he has a theory. He has a very strong theory. You'll see that he moves a piece of text to the beginning that we're going to hear, as with the Branagh Much Ado, there's a piece of text we're going to hear more than once. It's going to be put up front as a kind of intro. And then we're going to hear Olivier, the director slash star himself, kind of intone a message. This is a story about a man who cannot make up his mind. Okay, he's telling us how to interpret it. He also has a strong theory about Hamlet as a text. He's got an approach guided by a particular literary theory, and where did he get that theory? From this guy, from Sigmund Freud. That's right. We're going to be very, very Freudian. Freud also in black and white today. He's famously influenced. Freud's theory of Hamlet was extremely influential around the middle of the century. Olivier had almost certainly read or had learned about the contents of the famous Freudian English book, Hamlet and Oedipus. There it is. Hamlet and Oedipus. You see, it says Hamlet is like Oedipus. Who is Oedipus? He's the famous Greek character who accidentally didn't mean to, kills his father, marries his mother. This is, he was adopted, he left town, he met some people, he didn't get along well with one, he got along much too well with the other. The famous play Oedipus Rex by Sophocles is about the day when Oedipus finds all of this out. Bad times. Freud's theory of Hamlet is that Hamlet is a kind of Oedipus wannabe, that he feels guilty, he's conflicted about his father's murder because kind of deep down he always wanted to kill his father himself, so avenging it becomes a complicated thing because you're killing somebody, in Freud's theory, for doing what you really wanted to do. And Freud also theorizes that Hamlet really wants to have sex with his mother, part of Freud's Oedipal theory, and so how mad can you be at the king who's doing the thing with the mother? So you will see a lot of heavy Freudian stuff where you will see the mother is Gertrude is cast as very young and sexy. In fact, the actress playing Gertrude is younger than the actor playing Hamlet. We're going to see a lot of visual symbolism, look especially at that bed, which looks a lot like, as many critics have noticed, like a part of the human anatomy that one gender has and another gender just doesn't have. Let's say that's really mama's bed. So he's got this theory, but that wouldn't be enough without execution. Olivier is going to go at this a number of ways. First of all, the black and white isn't just because he lacks the technology. His other two Shakespeare movies are both in color. He did a color movie before this in '44. He's deliberately choosing black and white to make this dark and moody. He's influenced by film noir, which is a kind of, it's a long Hollywood tradition and European tradition of mystery, especially mystery and suspense movies that are very dark, very brooding, lots of shadows. So we're going to have lots of shadows for this Hamlet. We're going to have a lot of unusual camera angles. We're going to have a lot of fun with those stairs in the tower, and it's generally dark. But it's also what's called expressionistic. The scenery is meant to reflect the character's mindset. Where this really, so there's a lot of darkness and storminess and shadowiness around here because that's meant to imply to us visually the state of Hamlet's mood. We can't see inside the character's mind, though we get into his head in a literal way at one point, you'll see where. So we kind of see the world through Hamlet's eyes where everything looks dark and stormy. What gives this away is that every place around Olivier's Elsinore is kind of dark and stormy. There are rocks or sea, there's shadows everywhere. Except if you look out the window on Ophelia's side of the castle, for some reason Ophelia's on the side of the castle where it always gets sunshine all the time. And this sweet music, everything is it's always sunny on Ophelia's side. This isn't literally true. We're not meant to believe there's different weather in different parts of the castle. We're meant to believe that the weather and the visuals in different parts of the castle are symbolic of different, they're not literal, they symbolize states of mind or attitudes. We're also going to do a lot of getting into Hamlet's head through the camera work. First of all, often the camera will be in Hamlet's point of view. This is as close as cinema can get to giving us the inside of a character's mind, is seeing the world pretty literally through his eyes. But the camera also moves on its own when it's not literally Hamlet's point of view. Sometimes it's merely suggesting Hamlet's point of view. The camera is the most important character in this film. It moves around and attracts attention to things. How does it it shows us what people are thinking about, and especially what Hamlet is thinking about, what's on his mind, by moving around and hovering on certain places, like the famous shot of the mother's bed. Why are we looking at Hamlet's mother's bed? Because Hamlet Hamlet's mother and what goes on in Hamlet's mother's bed are in Hamlet's mind, and the camera tells us that. If the camera moves in a way that seems dizzying or strange or a little nauseating, well, that's meant to suggest some inner disturbance in the protagonist. It's all Hamlet's world, we just look at it. The other thing that Olivier is doing very craftily is he's done something a little experimental with the soliloquy. Now, Hamlet is, well, the most inward, allegedly, of Shakespeare's characters. He's also the most talkative. And he talks in 6 or 7, depending on the version you get, soliloquies. These scenes where there's no one on stage but one character, and that character speaks his or her mind in a way that's meant to be on some level unfiltered. Now, how this happens in the theater is the character just starts talking. And they also can make it theatrical. He starts talking to the audience. Now, today he talks as if there's no audience there. Olivier makes a daring move that most people don't do with this. He turns the soliloquies into voiceovers. So where he's going to be very literal about the film convention, we don't generally get a lot of voiceover. Where we get the voiceover is where Hamlet is soliloquizing. The logic being that if he's just thinking, if this is soliloquies are really him just thinking, let's just have a close-up of his face and hear the voiceover, and that's how we'll represent what he's thinking about.
Oh my goodness, how did I get to Elsinore in the first place? What would Sigmund Freud think? I just have so much to ponder. This is how I think, not is this a movie or what's going on?
A few last things about Olivier's Hamlet. I would point out that Olivier is one of the most athletic film actors actually, the most athletic Shakespearean actors of all time. Yeah, oh, he's a guy in tights. He's a guy in tights showing off his calf definition. This is one of the reasons people used to go to the theater, to see some nice legs. He's also, I would say personally, of all the Hamlets in the world, he's the one I'd most like to be, the Shakespearean actor I'd most like to be in a sword fight with, because they'd all kill me, but he's the best sword fighter, so he'd finish me off fastest. He is a famously athletic actor. He acts with his body a lot. It makes him good for film. You will see some choices he makes that lets him to move a lot, kind of dynamically. He seems traditionalist to you because it's black and white, because it's traditional costume, because the language is spoken in a particular way, but he's not shy about cutting the text. There are whole characters, whole plot lines that have just gone missing. And watch, he's taken them out. He's done without it. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are gone. They're just gone. And ultimately, this is not a naturalist movie. This is an expressionist movie, where everything we see is meant to be symbolic of something. Everything we see is meant to ultimately be symbolic rather than literal. In the end, this is a trip inside Hamlet's mind where everything's dark. It's never sunny in Elsinore, except in the Ophelia zone, and well, how well does that work out for her? So enjoy the film. I'll see you later to talk about Brenna and then about Almereda.